talk a little bit about this whole idea of evidence-based practices. Because it's, in my opinion, it's become a kind of an overused phrase. Everyone says they're evidence-based, right? No one says, I don't know where the hell I got that idea. and so it's common today for every, I mean, you saw it in your legislation. Many states are saying, we want to do evidence-based practice. I remember a number of years ago, Oregon passed some legislation, and I testified, and they required that the dollars go to evidence-based practice. And then they turn to me and say, what is evidence-based practice? Right. You should know there are different forms of evidence. The lowest form is anecdotal evidence. These are opinions, testimonials, case studies. They often make us feel really good. You're running a reentry court now. You're going to have folks that come in, and you're going to have a graduation. They're going to come forward. They're going to tell their stories. Everybody's going to feel good about that. You should feel good about that. But that's anecdotal evidence. That's all that is. The highest form of evidence, empirical evidence, results from controlled studies. Okay? Data. Okay? Doesn't always make us feel good. Sometimes what we think is working really has no effect. Okay? I'll give you a quick story. A number of years ago in my state, we had a county had a big drug problem. Lots of drugs were coming down I-75 corridor into that community. He was a very powerful judge. And he decided he was tired of seeing these drug offenders just rotating through his court, right? And so he wanted to do something about that. And he started asking around, where could he find a good drug program? Where could he find a drug program that worked? And they sent him down to Miami Beach. Better place to go for a drug program. Goes down to Miami, and a judge down there says, I got just a program for you, acupuncture. And he trotted up some poor indigents who said, acupuncture changed my life. And based on that anecdotal evidence, that judge came back to Ohio, and he created an acupuncture program run by the probation department. In my state, probation is under the court, directly under the court. It went something like this. They bought an old house down the street, turned it into a day reporting center. Offenders that had serious drug problems had to report every morning, 8:30 in the morning. First thing they did was pee in a cup. Second thing they did was get acupuncture, 5 spots in the ear. That's where you get it for drug problems. Then they spent the rest of the day in other activities, drug education, processing groups, 12-step groups, other things that don't work with offenders either, by the way. And they did that for about a year, and they spent a lot of money. It was a lot of money. Every time they gave somebody acupuncture, it was $50. And they were lined up out the door every morning. So after about a year of this, they called me, and they said, Ed, we want you to evaluate our program. We want to know if it's working. Let me be clear. When someone asks me if a correctional program is working, I usually know what they're referring to. They want to know, is it changing people's behavior? Are they less likely to use drugs and steal and hurt people and do the things that got them into trouble? Okay? It's about recidivism. They don't really care if the offenders like the program. No, they don't care if the staff like the program. They want to know, is this program keeping us safer and making our community better? So I'm pretty clear about that. Okay? I focus on recidivism. There are lots of measures. We can talk about them later. But at the end of the day, it's really about keeping people safe. So, they want to know if the program reduced recidivism. That's not that difficult. They had a whole bunch of offenders that got the program. Right? They had a whole bunch of drug offenders that didn't get the program. Right? So what do we expect? We expect when we create a program, right, they're going to do better. This side's going to do better than this side. That's pretty simple design. Right? Then they said to me, we want to know if acupuncture works. Now I had a problem. Because everybody over here was getting acupuncture, but they were all getting all that other good stuff. Think about it. How many of you work in probation? You drug test people? Yeah? You try to get them a job, make sure they're going to work, right? Make sure they follow the rules and conditions, right, imposed by the court? Sure you do. You give them good advice? Can't give them enough of that good advice, right? Okay, so if you put somebody on probation and they're doing well, is it because of the drug test? Is it because of the advice? Right? You don't really know. You like to think it is. And when they fail, it's because they weren't taking that advice. But the truth is, you don't know. You throw everything you have in your toolbox at them and you hope something sticks, right? That's how we do supervision, right? Well, they were doing that, right? They were drug testing them and giving them advice and acupuncture. They want to know if acupuncture worked. To answer that question, I had to do a random experiment. We randomly assigned offenders to one of three groups. Acupuncture. You come in the morning, you pee in a cup, you get acupuncture, get all that other good stuff. Placebo group. You come in the morning, you pee in a cup, you get acupuncture in the wrong spot. That's okay? I'll give it to you for sexual dysfunction. And all that other good stuff. Control group. Oh, you're laughing at that. Control group. You come in the morning, you pee in a cup, you wouldn't get acupuncture. You get all that other good stuff. Acupuncture, placebo, control. Acupuncture, placebo, control. That's how random assignment works. The only folks who knew who were in the acupuncture and placebo groups was the secretary who kept the list and the acupuncturists. The POs didn't know. The offenders didn't know. They knew, obviously, in the control. To make a long story short, what did we find at the end of the study? Who had the lowest recidivism rates of all three groups? The control group. Now, if you ask why, it's basically because acupuncture is horseshit.